Hi guys, it's Jodi, and today I will be talking about how I got into Parsons School of Design as a fashion design major, and I will be going over my portfolio, my Parsons challenge, my essays, and just some general tips I have for when you're applying to colleges. These will be both like general and art school related. But basically when I was applying, I had a bunch of questions and I would watch a bunch of these videos, and so hopefully by sharing my experience you guys will be able to benefit from it. But yeah, I have a bunch of notes and key points and my artworks like pulled up on my laptop, so if I keep looking away, that's why. So again, my name is Jodi. I am a first year or freshman at Parsons School of Design, and I am majoring in fashion design. So now that we have all the boring stuff out of the way, I'm gonna get into the bulk of this video, and I'll start by talking about the college essay. So I know this is something that a lot of people dread, and honestly it was very daunting for me when I first applied too, but this is key when applying to colleges because it is the one part about your application that is not based on your transcript or stats. So it's your opportunity to show schools who you are beyond, just your resume or your grades. And pretty much every school you apply to is going to require this essay. And same goes for art schools. They do want to look at who you are as a person too. And depending on the school, they will also have school-specific essays that they require in their application process. But yeah, okay, I'm just gonna share a summary of what I wrote, just because if I read everything it's just gonna be way too much time, and this is already a lot of talking. So starting off with my Common App essay, I chose to answer the prompt about what person, time, or thing shaped my identity. And I know in Common App there are a bunch of prompts to choose from, including the one where you can like create your own prompt, but I personally feel that you should just stick to one of the prompts they provide you with, just so that you can have more of a guideline to follow. And also, like, these prompts are pretty broad, so you can honestly be very creative, and even with like the ones they set for you, they're pretty loose and you can interpret it however you want it to be. But anyways, going back to my essay, I chose to write about the process of art making and how it reflected my troubles of coping with unmet expectations. And I know this doesn't really make a lot of sense, but to sum it up, I wrote about how when you're creating art, there is the opportunity to revise or rework something that you don't like or didn't turn out the way you expected it to be. But in life, that's not possible, and you have to keep pushing through and working with what you get. And this was something that I was really struggling with, or it was really difficult for me to come to terms with, because I was such a perfectionist and I wanted things to come out a certain way. And so in talking about this, I added how this reflection has made me more decisive and been more confident in the choices I make, and also how it shaped my vision for what I want in my future. So I tied in the art aspect into going to art school and studying fashion design. But hopefully that made sense to you guys. Bottom line is just pick an idea and stick to it. Don't try to cram a bunch of things about yourself into your one Common App, and don't talk about your studies or stats and stuff. They'll see that in your transcript and resume, so really talk about something that's really different, or it's gonna make you stand out. Okay, so now moving on to the Parsons specific prompts. The first prompt asked me what social issue would I want to change and how my studies at the new school would help me in that process. So for this prompt, I talked about the social construct of gender-biased fashion and how there is this idea that if you identify with a specific gender, there is a certain pressure for you to dress like a certain way because that's how society perceives you to be or expects you to look like. And I explained that with fashion design, my goal is to eventually start a clothing line of my own that would be completely unisex designs and will provide a wide range of sizing options to accommodate to people of all body types. And then for the second prompt, they asked, what about the new school drew me to apply and why would I be a good fit? And for that, I talked about how I really like the fashion program at Parsons and the way that the fashion design curriculum is structured. I also talked about how reputable it is internationally amongst everyone in the fashion industry. It's a very well-known name, and how many notable alumni have graduated from Parsons, and I basically just said I really want to be one of the artists that graduates from here. So yeah, pretty simple. Okay, now moving on to my portfolio, I will show you guys the pieces I submitted and briefly talk about each piece. I submitted a total of 12 artworks along with my Parsons challenge, which I heard isn't a thing anymore, but I'm still gonna talk about it briefly because it was part of my application. And also, I do want to put a disclaimer out there. All of my pieces were illustration based because I pulled a lot from my AP portfolio in high school, but also when I was talking to like Parsons admission officers, they said they wanted to see more concept rather than technical skills. But I know this is just Parsons specific, so if you are applying to other schools and you're not really sure like what to include in your fashion portfolio, I would reach out to them or do more research on their website. So this first piece is entitled Imposter Syndrome. It is 14 by 24, and I did this with color pencil, marker, ink, and pen on paper. So the idea about it was just I wanted to convey the feeling out of place and losing a sense of who you are when you're around people who are just as lost as you. And my next piece is actually a diptych. So each part is 18 by 12, but together it's 18 by 24. I did the entire thing in color pencil, watercolor, and marker. And then this was basically like a play on the Matrix like concept, and I wanted to show this idea of wanting luxury but also choosing to stay in a more non-ideal reality because it's what's comfortable and it's what people are used to. For my next piece, it's 14 by 17, I believe, and I did this with color pencil, watercolor, and watercolor crayons. I wanted to convey the sense of losing who you are and how this happens when too many people place their influence on you. My next piece is entitled Skeletons. This was just like an experimental piece I did with acrylic paint and ink on a 14 by 17 canvas, I believe. And I was just listening to a song on repeat for like an hour, and I just used like forks and knives to paint acrylic paint according to beats or rhythms that I heard while I was listening to the song, and it just became this really cool like collage thing. And then my next piece is called Good Night. It's also another collage. I did this with paper, and the entire piece is 10 by 13 or 10 by 14, I think. And this is supposed to represent the thoughts in my mind as I fell asleep, because every night before I fall asleep, as I'm lying in bed, I have like a rush of thoughts, and this is just a visual representation of what it feels like to me. And then the next piece, this is actually my favorite piece in my entire portfolio. It's entitled My Image. This is mixed media. I use pencil or color pencil, marker, acrylic paint, gel medium, and I also printed out like pictures of myself that I taped on with like some like washi tape. And this is just supposed to represent the action of me drafting an image for myself of who I am and who I want to be, pulling from personas I've had in the past, who I am now, and who I want to be in the future. And then my next piece is entitled Phases. This was actually a detail shot of a bigger piece I did with broken CDs, band-aids, and red yarn. And basically it's kind of like more like visual representation of what my overthinking looks like and I used the red yarn to tie my thoughts together and to show like my feelings and worries written down on the CDs. My next piece is called Formula. This was just a practice for anatomical drawing because I don't have any like fashion things in here. So when I was applying to fashion school, I needed to make sure, or I tried to make sure that these like application officers could tell that I had a good understanding of anatomy and the way the body looks. And that's also why I did a lot of portraits in all of my other artworks as well. But basically this was just experimental or a practice done with white charcoal on tempera painted paper, and this was just like 12 by 10. It was pretty small. It was just out of the sketchbook. And then my next piece is called Drunk Days. This is 18 by 24 done with marker and color pencil, and it's supposed to show like the juxtaposition of the art styles and like the mediums in the subject and the background. It's supposed to show like a feeling of not belonging or misplacement, and the subject looks very lost and dazed, which is exactly the mood I was trying to go for. And then the next piece, Broken Clocks, this was also more detailed shots of a bigger piece I did, but it's just reflective images. I use broken CDs to show the features that I pay attention to the most on like my face. So I did a lot of like sketches of like my eyes and my nose and my lips, because I feel like those are the first things I look at because they're right there. My last piece in my portfolio is called My Room. It's just a technical piece that I did with acrylic on canvas, and it's just to show that I have an understanding of space and depth. And I also wrote in my description that my room is my comfort spot and it's reflective of what my mental state looks like. So in this painting, my bed's kind of messy, which is reflective of what I felt when I was making this piece. I wasn't really in the best mental state, so I included that in my description as well. Alright, now my Parsons challenge. Basically for your Parsons challenge, they asked me to make one piece pulling from ideas from like other pieces in my portfolio. So I chose to pull from my diptych, the red pill blue pill piece. So I wanted to illustrate how people question the crossroads in their lives and must consider the outcome of their decisions. So this was a very literal interpretation of red pill blue pills. I used actual pill capsules, and this was 12 by 13, so again pretty small. The face is done in color pencil, and then I glued the pill capsules and I overlaid it with bleeding watercolor tissue with gel medium to give it like a water effect. And basically I wanted to tie in my day-to-day feelings of confusion and generalized like concept of crisis, and how I'm trying to find a balance between reality and my fantasies. Okay, with all that being said, I'm going to move on to the final portion of this video where I'm going to be sharing some tips with you guys. And the first one is to be authentic. This sounds very cliche, but when you're applying to school, you want to present yourself as honestly as you can while showing the best parts of yourself. And I would say try to be a little personal and show off something that people wouldn't know about you just by looking at you, but obviously don't get so personal to the point where you sound a little bit unhinged. My second point is to create a niche. So this kind of relates to my previous point, but you want to draft an image for yourself, and to do that you want to find like 2 to 3 things that about you that makes you you. So basically they can be very random and they don't have to relate to each other. So for me, when I was applying to colleges, I kept talking about fashion, sustainability, and self-care because those are things that I was very passionate about. And for me, like, because I'm going into fashion and into art school, these things did relate for me. and like kind of tie into what I was trying to do for college. But obviously these don't have to relate. Like honestly, I feel like if they don't, it's probably better because it helps you stand out even more from your applicant pool. And my third piece of advice is to save everything. So you're gonna get to a certain point where all your essays are gonna be like all about the same thing. So you can just write, like, I would say about 5 very solid essays, and when you get more essays that you have to write for colleges or scholarships, this is very important because you can save these for even after when you're done with the application process and scholarships keep running through for the rest of like throughout the school year. You can sort of just like Frankenstein your essays together because they're gonna be asking pretty much the same thing. My fourth point is to start early. So applying to college is a very stressful and rigorous process. So you don't want to wait till the last minute. You're gonna stress yourself out and you don't want to be rushing your essays or your artworks. I had to do that a little bit towards the end because I definitely did not give myself enough time to do good quality work, and you're just gonna be burnt out and you're not gonna be happy with the results. So take it from me personally, just give yourself more time than you would think that you need. And my last piece of advice is like more art school related, but it is to go to portfolio reviews. And this was very helpful for me, going to portfolio reviews. And I went to the ones held by National Portfolio Days. I know some art schools hold their own like private ones that are just for their schools specifically, but basically at National Portfolio Days they will have a bunch of art schools from all over the country fly in, and they have multiple events all across the country, like for many months. And I will link their website in the description, like down below, with all their dates and events. It's very helpful. I would really recommend you go take a look if you are applying to an art school. And basically they have both in-person and virtual events that you can attend, and you can also see on their website for each event what schools are going to be there, so you can choose which events you want to go to. And also you can go to as many events as you would like to. I went to the two closest to me when I was applying, but honestly if you are willing to fly out to multiple states or whatever, you can totally do that. And also the really great thing about these National Portfolio Days are that the people that are reviewing your portfolio are gonna be admission officers that are working for these schools, so they will be able to tell you firsthand what their school is looking for in their applicants. And they can also just provide you with a bunch of school specific information that will be very helpful for you when you're applying to said schools. And even if you're not a senior or like applying to college, these events are open to all artists of all ages and they're free. So I would highly recommend, even if you just want to get some feedback on your artwork, this is a really great resource to use. And I will say is to be prepared to wait in line though, because these events are all day and there will be a lot of artists lining up to get their feedback on their artworks, especially at big schools like RISD. RISD's line was super long when I went. RISD, Micah, Parsons, and like SAIC, so like the big like household names of art schools, they're gonna have very long lines. Alright guys, this is everything I have for today's video. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know this was a lot of talking, so if you guys still have any questions, you can leave them in the comments or reach out to me on Instagram and I will do my best to help you guys. And yeah, I really hope you guys found this helpful or just enjoyed watching me talk about my artworks and college application experience. But if you are applying to college, I wish you guys all the best of luck. You guys got this. And again, thank you so much for watching and I will catch you guys later.